All right, let's jump into things. Where we at? 9:35 on 15th of July. So halfway through the month now. Jeez, these things absolutely fly along, don't they? So this will be the last analysis video I do actually, probably well, pretty much for the month and that, as I am off to Hawaii this afternoon. So chance to have a quick look over the markets now. Obviously, we've got the big one, sort of the CPI coming up tonight, which is going to be the main sort of thing. And unfortunately, I'm going to be up in the air. I've even checked to see if I've got Wi-Fi. I got Wi-Fi for the first 2 hours of the flight. Unfortunately, about 5 hours into the flight is when we have CPI. So that'll be something to sort of see how it plays out when I sort of get wheels down over there. But anyway, we'll get to that. So through this morning, what do we got news-wise and that? So look, yesterday, pretty quiet sort of day. Not really too much happening in that. We did have the big headline yesterday, which was the whole sort of Trump. I've got a big Russia announcement coming. And of course, we had somewhat of the fallout of the 30% tariffs over EU and Mexico from the weekend. It was all just, I don't like the term nothing burger, but I guess that's pretty much what it was. Nothing really happened from it all. Like, yeah, there was a little bit of flow on maybe from the Russia sort of thing, but I don't think that was the driver that got the market moving the moves that we did get with it all. Um, and if you actually sort of look at gold, it's exactly how I sort of called it on the weekend analysis. And I think that's very telling. Look, particularly if we sort of confirm and put in another sort of negative day today, and if we have CPI hot and we see gold sort of pull back down now, I think we're getting close to that point where people say, hey, look, enough's enough with gold. Let's take this thing a little bit lower. Because it's been bouncing and holding up, but these sort of catalysts, and this is what I was saying on the weekend. I wanted to see how the market digested this, new round of 30% tariffs and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, we got the gap up, we closed the gap, had a second effort, actually a little straight drive, which I'll get to on the charts. But the market sold into it. And you got to think, why is the market doing this? The market's selling into this thing at any sort of opportunity for it to move up a little bit higher because they think it's going lower. It's the same thing we saw with the Israel-Iran situation, which I'll get to when I get to onto the gold chart. But that was the sort of the moves from overnight. Yesterday was pretty quiet on the data. Today we've got consumer sentiment, not really a massive move up as for Aussie in just under an hour now. Bit of China data coming out, 12 o'clock. So this is the stuff that I was talking about. So we did have some China data yesterday, this lot here. So the trade balances, which, they seem to be up. You know what I mean? Beating it, not only up, but beating expectations quite significantly. Like you're looking for this to go up 40 billion, it went up 80 billion. So, you know what I mean? For all this sort of trade, tariffs, debacles, all this kind of stuff, doesn't really seem to be impacting stuff so much in that for the time being. So CPI tonight's going to be quite interesting because, you know, yes, the CPI, there's tariff inflation and all this stuff, but how many of these tariffs have actually come through? So I don't know, maybe I'm missing something there, but it'll be interesting to see. Um, so through today, through Asia, we've got there's China data, and it's all looking retail sales down, industrial production down, GDP down. So this is not looking super strong for China. So possibly, if this does come out as expected here or forecast, you could see a little weakening of the yuan just off the back of that. Apart from that, through Asia, don't really have a great deal. Moving on to the main event, you got sort of Canada CPI, but the market's really looking for, of course, US data, US CPI, and this is all tipped to come in a little bit hotter. If this does come in at this sort of thing, we've seen US dollar sort of remain a little bit bid in preparation for this. We've also got a bit more data throughout the week as well. Remember, we've got PPI, we got retail sales, unemployment claims are every week. We've got a couple of manufacturing numbers. We got consumer sentiment, inflation expectations at the tail end of the week. But for now, obviously the market's looking at CPI. If this does come in hotter, we're right at a breakout point, and I think we could sort of see a little bit of a pop. And at the moment, it's actually sort of tiny little gap up just for the morning. We'll see how this one actually sort of flows through, but we're breaking some key levels. We've got a gap just above us at 98.35, which we'll probably target first. and then sort of see what happens as the data actually comes out. But yeah, I think this is going to be quite a mover. So if I'd actually thought ahead, well, whenever I bought the tickets, I should have looked at the data. I've done this before, and it's sort of like, you don't, it's weeks and weeks and weeks in advance. You don't think about sort of what data's coming out on that day. But yeah, that's probably not the day to have picked for that one there. So one sec. All right, and alarm going off. All right, let's jump into the charts. Let's start off with DXY. So get this out of the way here. Look, this isn't the chart I was going to show with it, but this is the broader sort of view with DXY as we've sort of been seeing it the other week, where we had this sort of like kind of long-term sort of falling support. Whoops. Down over here, and a little bit of an overthrow here, and this is where we sort of, well, I was calling a little bit of a turnaround from it all. I mean, I've called it a couple of turnarounds a couple of times, and it's been slap, but we are coming through this falling resistance. We've done this little overthrow here. It's pinched. This is a bit of a wedge, which obviously leads to a topside move. So we'll see how this one sort of flows through. Let's get onto a chart that we're actually using. If you get onto the 4 hour here, this is what's important at the moment. I mean, the whole thing's kind of important, but we're coming up into the top end of this channel, which is quite confirmed along here. We've got sort of 2 touches here, 3 touches down the bottom here. We've run from the bottom to the top, excuse me. And it's been respecting the chart very well the whole way. Like I always appreciate and highlight when charts, when the price action respects the chart, because it means there's some sort of form of structure to the movements. Like to a certain degree, like when you're looking at this kind of stuff here, this is the total opposite. There's no structure to this lot here. So the structure I kind of mean is in the stuff that I talk about all the time, and that where it's kind of like, okay, you move up, you sort of find resistance, you move back, you find support. Where do you find support? You find support at the previous resistance. You tackle the highs, you break up, you go down, like this kind of thing. That's the structure that I'm sort of talking about, sort of like the actual price action structure. When you've got these moves here, this is kind of like, okay, it's gone through support, that's fine. It's gone all the way down. When it's tried to go up, it should have sort of come back up and retested some of these levels over here, but it didn't. It only got to here, and then they started selling it again here. Should have come back up from here to sort of maybe retest these levels here. It didn't. They got to here and they started selling it again. And this kind of price action to me is it's more emotional trading. It's like people just going out, and this is what I mean, the same sort of thing with gold. Not necessarily, okay, the same thing with gold, but the idea is like if you think it's coming down here, you don't wait for the structural sort of thing. Like if you tried to buy, let me get some of this stuff out of here. If you tried to buy this point just here with support, so that's your support through here. You tried to buy this support here. Okay, you got it wrong. That's fine. Got it wrong. Went down here. Comes back up here. Get a chance to get out for 0. You take it, and on it goes. It moves down there, and that's how the sort of structure will kind of play out. Obviously, there's different facets to it, but that's kind of the move there. Excuse me. But what you saw here was even if you bought here, well, it's come back down here, comes up here. People didn't even get a chance to get out here. They just screw it. It's coming down here. I'm getting out no matter what. And bang, we saw a big another wave down. And that's that kind of emotional kind of trading that I'm sort of talking about with it all. What we're sort of seeing opposed to that on this way back up here is here's your support. It became your resistance. Came back down, broke through. Sellers came in right on cue. Sold back down, broke through, came up here, closed the gap. Sellers came in, hit resistance. Sellers came in. And then we saw this last little sort of grind through this area here. But yesterday in the session, if we get onto a lower time frame, you can see this pretty much traded perfectly in the sense that it came up, tested this horizontal, and that's what I said on the weekend video, weekend analysis, that you had this confluence coming in here of this falling resistance and this horizontal resistance, and it would sell down. And that's exactly what we got. I did say on there as well, who knows, like it could come down here, could have a shorter thing. I mean, it could have also come down here. Everything's a possibility. But as you can see, buyers were at this point here, they've stepped up their bid, they've stepped up their bid, they've stepped up their bid. So they're pushing it up, 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 up. towards this sort of little breakout area, and this is where we're at the moment, coming through this sort of little falling resistance area. So look, I think it is kind of significant, and the fact that it's front running this bit of data could be a little bit of a tell as well. I mean, look, I could be eating my words tomorrow, but at the moment, it's very much looking like they want to take this thing a little bit higher. I mean, it's not really enough to sort of say you got a gap up, but you got this tiny little sort of area just here at the moment. But we are on the outside of this falling resistance into this horizontal. I could see this pushing up here, at least closing this gap. And I would say again, if we see this sort of thing happen, where we see this sort of like gap closed, I expect the sellers to come in here again. So pretty much similar to what we had through this move here. So we had that sort of confluence play out, and we see a little move through like this. Remember, these are price levels, not necessarily time levels. Like, what I mean, for instance, this move through here, I've actually called it a few times, thinking first we were going to go here, then we were sort of halfway across here, and I thought, oh, we're going to go here, and whichever, whatever. But the point is, structurally, I think sort of like the fact that we're through this could open the door to at least close that gap. And then we obviously sort of see what happens with the data. And if we come in hot with the data, there's not a lot. I mean, you could say maybe this was a little bit of a zone. Whoops. Maybe this was a little bit of a zone through here. But, certainly above 98.6, that's pretty much clear air up to 99.4. And that's squeeze time, because you're out of the channel. You're above the gaps are just targets. They're not sort of like a resistance area, but you're above this last little area, which was obviously a little bit of significance. It was a support. Arrows gone. It was a little resistance here. Pinpoint this one. There was supports. So we should probably see some sort of little reaction here as well. But should you get above here, that's your kind of move coming up over here. That's your direction there, I would say. So, I mean, work to be done, but these sort of bigger moves to get these kind of things here, big catalysts to what can sort of drive these things here. So if we do get a hotter CPI, what does it mean? Well, it means that sort of Powell was probably correct in the sense of waiting for doing his cuts. It emboldens the idea of him to sort of hold off cutting. And if he's going to hold off cutting, look, a lot of this move here was obviously, a couple of things. It was uncertainty, but it was also the idea that, the Fed's going to cut, Fed's going to cut, Fed's going to cut. We had all these extra things. We had that Bowman chick. We had the Waller guy around these points here, and the market sold off because they're going to cut in July, If they don't, and well, at least if the talk in those sort of data sort of supports the idea that they can hold off a little bit longer, you're going to see these moves undo. And that's what's going to drive us, and that's what's going to get the move to come back up towards these 99 levels. And remember, 99.4 was the big level. I was like, here we go. And just when the headlines come out, and Bowman says, hey, or Bowman, whatever, says, hey, we should probably cut, and bang, market absolutely demolished everybody. Took out the lows, and that's all she wrote sort of down there. So anyway, look, the point is that it is certainly still in a little bit of a bullish momentum. It did break the channel. They didn't care. They bought it. Pulled back. They bought it. This is fanboy sort of territory sort of stuff when people say, hey, look, you know what? I don't care what the US dollar does. I'm going to buy it. Because why? Because it's going up here. And if I can buy it here, and if it comes down here, I'll buy it again. This thing broke the channel. That's great. I'll buy it. And they take it up, and they take it up, and they take it up. So, it is setting up the stage for obviously close the gap, get over 98.6. 98.6 looks pretty clean air up until 93.40 really, which is obviously that big weekly breakout level there. All right, let's keep on going. Got to make it kind of quick because I've got things I've got to get done before I get going. But can't skip the analysis. So we had gold, and this is what I was talking about on the weekend. That I wanted to see how the market digested this move, because what we said, if we zoom out a little bit, I could sort of, well, geez, that's loud. Equity markets are still ripping as well, by the way. Despite all this other stuff going on. So anyway, the point is, this is the initial attacks. Market pumped up and they sold into it. US bombs, pumped up, market sold into it. 30% tariffs, pumped up, market sold into it. The Russia announcement, market didn't really care. They were already selling gold. Bang bang. So look, it's back at this important sort of swing point that we actually sort of marked out. Well, I marked out last week. As you can see, this has been a repeat level time and time and time and time and time again, and it's back testing here now. This is where it needs to hold, in my opinion. If it breaks underneath here, let's just put a little alert underneath this. What am I doing here? That's not that. Sign here. Okay, shut up. Message. Okay, so breaking back below. Let's just call it swing point. I mean, there's a bunch of different names that people like to call these things, but let's call it resistance support, whatever. Swing point support, whatever. We're right on the cusp of it anyway, so we'll see how this thing sort of plays out. But certainly, as you can see, come down one test, two tests. So it does have the ability here to possibly try and sort of squeeze a little bit more. But at the moment, it's looking a little bit bearish. RSI on the 1 hour. Let's go to the 4 hour, make it a bit more reasonable. Look, the RSI on the 4 hour looks like it's not necessarily about to turn around, but certainly it is obviously sort of holding at this sort of crucial point here. I think underneath this level here, we start to see a bit of a move back down. Let's go here. So this is kind of the move. Should we get under there? We may see some sort of reaction through here. Not a super level at that at 24. But I think we're getting pretty crucial, pretty close to these things here. Because, should we sort of come back down underneath 32.80, which, seems a way off now, $60 or so. But of course, these things can move. And if US dollar breaks up higher, it could put pressure on gold. If we do get a break back down below 32.80, that's going to be major breakdowns. And certainly under the 32.50, well, you're going down mid 31s then. So, there's some downside pressure. I mean, look, anything's possible. This is a back test of this area. Breakout, back test. It could obviously still run up this side here as well. So this will be a crucial area to sort of see what is it going to do. Sort of come, prior to CPI, during CPI, and see if is the market just going to sort of do it. If it comes in cooler and US dollar sells off and gold goes up, watch what they do there. Are they going to sell into that as well? Again, that'll be telling. But I think the fact that every time they've had these opportunities, which are great opportunities for, in theory, fundamentally, for gold to run higher, they've just gone, great, I want to sell into it. And why? Because you can see, here was the initial attacks. That was the time for them to run it. What'd they do? They sold into it. US attacks, that's great. Take it back up here? No, they sold into it. And that's what we've seen here again a little bit here as well. So I think it's at a crucial sort of point at the moment here. A break below, maybe you find some support in the mid 20s. You break below 20s, you're probably coming back down to at least a round number, and you're coming into a pretty important sort of rising support around that area there as well. But I think sort of with the H4, the 4 hour chart, RSI looking a little bit sort of like it wants to drive down lower. We could see a little bit of a move back towards that sort of round number. Aussie. So this is another one that I sort of said, look, coming into the weekend, it was consolidating this area here. It needed to get above 66 to prove itself. This big zone that it's back testing here at the moment is the big 61% retracement from October drop down, which was incredibly tough for it to get through. It's held a bunch of times, tested underneath, but got back above, testing underneath here again. I think if this thing starts to move down here, this is what I was saying on the weekend. Where's the chart? That this could potentially just work out to be a bit more of a bigger range play. Sort of between 65, 80, 65, 90s, and then maybe back down to 64, 90s. As you can see, we do actually have a little bit of a sort of rising support coming through here. So I'm going to put a little alert just underneath this. Didn't mean the capitals, but whatever. Breaking rising support. Very intense with the capitals, but
Yeah, it is sort of moving back down over here. So I'd say maybe a move like this could actually see, whoops, see this next little price target get touched up in that 64.90s. And again, CPI, that's going to be the big one. CPI comes in hot, we could break this level here, definitely. We could start to move back down to sort of like, low 64s, depending on how much they want to run the US dollar. Or it could come in cooler, and we could see it continue with this. It does actually have a little bit of a rising uh, ascending triangle through here. So should it hold this area, well, we know pretty much where it wants to go, back up towards the 80s. 4 hour looks pretty much oversold, so it could sort of turn around with this lot here. Again, let's just see what they do with the US dollar. If they push the US dollar early, then you could see a little bit of a break earlier. But if we do see them sort of like just, I mean, US dollar's coming into a resistance. This is coming into support. You can see the resistance hold, you can see the support hold. And if it does, then we just play in this little area over here. And potentially if it comes in cool, you could get a breakout. But I would say most likely the market's expecting and playing the idea that we're going to have a hotter CPI, which should see a little bit more US dollar strength, which means we could be seeing some further cooling on the Aussie. If we have a look at the daily chart here, you know what I mean? Like that's technically it did actually put in a new high, which is fine. So it can say it hit the stops, whatever. Um, and it sold back down, and that's a pretty ugly looking daily candle. I saw a thing a while ago actually. They're saying when you see a candle like this, just think about it like a grenade, a little grenade here with a little wick or whatever up, burner up at the top, fuse, whatever the word is. Anyway, the idea is basically if we see this thing push down here, you can see that sort of pretty much underneath the 20s, you're targeting that sort of 64.90s, which I'd say sort of shows up time and time again with the 90s. These moves down here, negative divergence. That last push back up to these highs here was coming in on pretty weak looking uh, RSI sort of buying pressure, and then we could see this thing maybe sort of drift back down a little bit. Move along quickly. We had silver, obviously big breakout there. I called this one as a negative divergence, which it kind of still is negative divergence. We did get a bit of sort of a strong rejection here. Put a little alert under this, and let's just call it just straight sort of deeper pullback. Deeper pullback. Oh, I'm going to take that capital thing off. Caps, whatever. So deeper pullback there. If we sort of flip this one and move back down here, this is technically a wedge with an overthrow, negative divergence. I was waiting for this move here. They've decided to obviously run it up higher first. So, you know what I mean? If people are buying this move, well, yeah, okay, good on them. If you're already in it, hopefully people are taking profit. I don't really care actually, it's not my trade. But again, look, I'm sort of more looking for this to be a bit of a overthrow, come back down here, fake breakout, and then push back down. I still think we have lower levels to come. I'm not shorting it yet because it is a technical breakout. But should you get that sort of confirmation and back into this zone down over here, certainly underneath 65.50s or 65s, 36.50s or 36 in that could be showing an overthrow, fake breakout, and this could open the door to a deeper sort of correction, sort of coming back down low 30s or so, 31, 32. Move along quickly. We got copper, and copper is still consolidating out the top over here. Actually, put it onto this lower line here. We seen it had a little bit of a triangle setting up, tested out the bottom here. Let's see what this does here. I think certainly still, underneath this zone here, we could see some sort of deeper correction. It hasn't really done much since, I mean, this was done in 10 minutes, and then now it's just so consolidating, flag out the top side. As I said, I still wouldn't be buying this thing at this time. It's already run, 17% in that. There's so much profit on the table. If they decide to bring this back down, it's going to come back down quickly, in my opinion. And if you want to buy it, you want to be part of this, I'd be looking back down over here. But for the time being, I'm just letting this one sort of roll along. And USD China, we had this sort of wedge, obviously on the higher time frames. Put on the daily, you can see it. This wedge breakout. So it still keeps pushing higher. Yeah. We had this sort of wedge breakout, back test. It's holding this zone here. It's a confluence of this horizontal and this sort of falling wedge. This is the time for it to run. And same sort of thing, if we see US dollar buying across the board, this could get a push to sort of get to its breakout point, and its breakout point is above 720. That's the number one sort of option for this trade. Second one is obviously if it does fail and comes down over here, well, we know where it's going. It's coming down to 709, where we got a next level of sort of horizontal support, and this is a little failed. I wouldn't say fake, but I would say failed breakout attempt. So obviously tried to go out, back test. 3 parts to your breakouts. Breakout, back test. You need to put the higher high. The higher high is the third part of the structure for a breakout. Okay, we get it. The ASX alert. I've got to change that. And so yeah, we can see this thing move a little bit higher. 720 is the breakout. Fail if it gets back down over here. The RSI does look a little bit cooked, actually, a little bit overbought for this move here. So we'll see how this sort of goes. But certainly, if we see US dollar buying across the board, it's most likely going to see this push up through here as well. Weaker China data today as well could see the yuan sell off a little bit. And obviously in this chart here, USDCNH, that would mean a move to the top side here. So we'll certainly be looking for a little bit of a move up intraday. I'll put a little alert on that as well and say intraday move up. I'll run out of these alerts soon. Yep, there we go. One sec. All right, there we go. All right, and that one's put in there. So yeah, it's interesting to sort of see how things move today. As I said, US dollar is really sort of at that cusp of a breakout. Just needs that little bit of a catalyst, which the CPI could be. All right, that's it from me, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks. Cheers.